Good morning.
Hello, good morning, Kira. How are you doing?
I think that, oh my God, we are telepathic. Welcome to our Versus Visionaries, to the third episode. We are going to talk about success
And
versus
failure.
failure. Many people will resonate with this topic because when we are talking about success and failure, they are coming from our, experiences. We are quickly labeling things we do in life, oh, this was a success, or that was like a bit of a failure, right?
Yes.
And most of the time, we forget two things. I think we forget to celebrate our successes, and we forget to embrace our failures as a path for learning.
Yeah, I think we should start by asking ourselves what is failure and what is success?
Go ahead with your definition of failure.
Okay, well, I can tell you my story about failure and success if you want to listen to it.
Yes, and we have some definitions after.
Yes, because I had to change my mind about what is failure and what is success. And I need to go back in time 11 years from now, when I have one of my, let's say, toughest failures, is that I was having a very different life on that time. I was living with my fiance. I was having a perfect functional life. I was in my country, in my hometown, having my job, everything there. And suddenly, out of anything, it's like everything disappeared. I broke with my fiance. It was very painful, a very painful process, which it took me like some time to accept, but that would be for another episode. But the thing is that at that moment, I had to go back to my parents' house, and I was feeling a complete failure. Because I even had plans to get married, and it was so tough because I was like looking at my life like destroying itself. Everything was falling apart while the rest of the world was continuing living, and they were having their own stories. And the most this versus this polarity was so shocked to me, because I was like destroying my life and the rest of the people around me were building them. My friends were getting married. In my family there were like babies be born, and I was like there, paralyzed in time, feeling a complete failure. Like I couldn't do it. I used to have a home, a family, and I don't have it anymore. So that was very, very like tough to admit, until I discovered that when I went back home, I said, okay, to my parents' home, right? So what should I do now? And I realized that I didn't know myself. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I realized that I have forgotten everything that was like passionate about my life. I started rediscovering myself in a way that I realized that I have missed all those years of who I was really. So what it seemed to be a failure, not only to me, but to society, because it was very difficult to be at that time on my skin, I was getting to my 30s, and all my friends getting married, and people were like, the social pressure was huge, like, oh, when are you going to have a baby? And I was like, I have just broke with my fiance. I'm not getting married. How am I supposed I'm going to have a child? The social pressure was very, very intense. So what I discovered is that I needed to find my own way. So I got my backpack and I went to the world. that's the time I became a digital nomad 11 years ago, and I started traveling and discovering. I even discovered that many of the fears I had at that time were not mine. That's where my shadow work started, digging, like, this is not mine, this is not mine. I like to do this, and why I was not doing it. So I managed to have this failure becoming into a success, because what happened is that I recovered my true self. I found myself again, and that was like invaluable. It's like
you've been a reborn person.
I was born again. I was born again.
A failure, coming from, people around you, and the way how they were seeing that you are
because you broke, so you should mourn a little bit, it was like, no, I need to live, I need to discover myself. So thanks to that failure, I recovered the most important thing in my whole life, that it was myself. And that's how we can convert a failure into a success, because this is not happening only to myself. I have some friends that also got divorced, and one of them was telling me, Vicky, I feel that I failed. I used to have a family, and now my family is broken. Yeah, but if we turn around that perspective and we see how we can get from that failure, we can convert it into a great success, that is recovering myself. Because if I have to be true, honest, I was not happy with that life, and that is what many things we don't want to recognize, that we are not happy with our reality, but we are sleeping in it. So years pass by, weeks pass by, and suddenly the universe, life, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, wakes us up and say, hey, you're losing time. Go for that success,
Yeah. So I can relate 100% to your story, because it just reminded me about something which happened very recently to myself. When after over 25 years of a stable job, of having that kind of cozy life where you get your paycheck,
comfortable, the
comfort zone, right? I moved to this entrepreneurial area, and I just resigned from my corporate life, which most of the people around me, they have seen it like a failure, by the way, right? Because in their mind, they were thinking about the comfort of stable, same thing, your financial stability is somehow covered, and you're
losing everything.
And you are risking all to go to an area where actually I didn't know that much about it. Their definition of failure is my definition of success.
Exactly.
So talking about success and failure, I don't think that we have a definition.
Yes, and it can also change with time. That we also need to be open to that possibility that what we consider success or failure in the past now can change. And we need to be open to see that also.
Failure is the path for learning, and learning is the path to success, to which you really need to add your own self and actions, right? Again, taking action is such an elementary thing. Yes. I think nothing, so any kind of learning could be just like a learning on paper, unless you take action towards what you aspire to do.
Exactly.
And I think that we should be very gentle to ourselves and to celebrate our ability to learn from failures, because that's a success.
That what you said is very important, to be gentle with ourselves. That is key.
So perspectives are changing, definitions are changing.
Yeah.
So the question is how the message from the stars is changing, Victoria, for this week.
For this week, we are having a beautiful energy in Cancer that, believe me or not, Cancer is the energy of our inner child. That child that needs to be nurtured, that needs to be protected, that needs to be loved. So this week we have a lot of energy in Cancer. Venus is coming to Cancer, Mercury is coming to Cancer, and the Sun will be coming to Cancer. So we have this season. So that would be a great season for us to focus on our inner child. When we go to the world and we say I'm afraid of doing this, it's not me, it's not the adult, it's the inner child who has that fear. Because as an adult, I know I'm capable of everything. You know, we are intelligent, we are independent, we can do whatever we want. We know it here, but our inner child doesn't know it. So we need to go back to that inner child and embrace it, nurture it, and say, hey, now I'm in charge. I'm going to protect you.
Amazing. So Vicky, shall we talk about some tools, how people can navigate success versus failures? What are you thinking?
Well, I have two things that I would like to recommend that I do it with myself.
Okay.
One is a phrase that I repeat like a mantra. Yes. Okay. Every time I need to do something and I know it's going to be like tough, or I'm afraid of not succeeding, I always repeat this phrase from Churchill that says, success is the ability to go from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm. So every time that, even when I fail, I look myself and I say, Vicky, remember that you said you were not going to lose the enthusiasm. Let's do it again, and let's do it again without losing the enthusiasm. This has helped me for the last year to go through many emotional tsunamis, you know?
Yeah.
To keep that as a mantra.
I also have a tool which I started to use recently, and it becomes so powerful, especially when I transition to the entrepreneurial journey. I'm calling the failure journal. The failure journal, it could be one page in your day-to-day journal if you are journaling, right? And I do like journaling because it's my way of structuring the day, being grateful for the day and so on. So having a failure journal and describing exactly, you know, what was that about and the learnings out of it, it's going to be much more like easy and visual to take that learning into practice. It's like, it's the acknowledgement on paper. And that's powerful. Acknowledging failure on writing, handwriting, it's so very powerful. And I found it insightful because most of the time, I celebrate it. I laugh about it. I take what I need and I move on.
We can even laugh at ourselves. Oh my God, look what I did again. Okay, let's do it again.
No, let's try not to do it again.
No, let's do the process. I failed, okay. Let's try again.
So first, as you all know, like us or dislike us. And also, I'd like to ask you, visionaries, to reflect to a recent failure of yours. Have it on paper and try to laugh at the end and take the learnings out of it. And also, the last one would be how those learnings can contribute to your future success.
Beautiful.
So,
we see you next Saturday.
Same time.
Same time, same place. Keep harmonizing your contrasts.
Yes. And Vicky, thank you. A pleasure having my coffee.
Pleasure as usual.
See you
Chin
next
chin.
Saturday. Chin
See you
chin, my
next
friend.
Saturday, my friend.
Bye.
Bye bye.